is something like a game of chess. It's true. There are similarities to life in the game of chess. For example, unless you absolutely have to, don't leave a piece unguarded where it can get knocked off by the opposition. Another thing, plan a good structure in your backfield with your bishops, rooks, and queen. Then arrange the pawns to open lines of attack on your opponent. Think ahead to what the consequences of moves are going to be. That's a lot like daily life. We need to care for each other, especially when we're vulnerable. We need to keep lines of communication open, and we need to be constantly thinking ahead to what consequences are going to be somewhere down the way. This program is about our God-given ability to think. It's quite a privilege and a responsibility. Sometimes we excuse bad moves we make and blame them on the wrong thing, when really we should have been thinking about what we were doing. Like with this tire wrench.
A shiny new tire wrench, so fresh from the factory that it still blinks when light hits it. It's about to start a brand new career of lying in a car trunk, waiting for an emergency. Back of every tire wrench, there's a mind. The mind of a person who can think and decide what a tire wrench should be used for. Sometimes it's things that aren't mentioned in the user's manual, like a tent peg, a can opener, a lever, a flagpole, a hammer, even a 3-iron. It's sad, but there are times when a tire wrench is used violently, like for collecting money from an unwilling victim or settling an argument. But it wasn't the tire wrench that did it. A tire wrench can't think. People can. And if they don't know what to think and how to act, there's someone they can go to for instruction. God. He's known for his wisdom and gives it generously to anyone who asks him for it.
As you see, there are a lot of uses for a tire wrench. We'll be back with more of the third story after this break. Jesus loved to tell stories with lessons, and some of them were about thinking ahead. He said that there was once a king who gave a marriage feast for his son. He sent his servants out to call in all the people who had been invited to the feast, but no one showed up. So he sent his servants out a second time. "Tell them," he said, "look, the dinner is ready. I've killed the fatted calf. Come and celebrate." Again, no one came. What's more, they made light of the invitation. One said, "I've bought a field and I have to go and check it out. Please excuse me." Another said, "I bought 5 yoke of oxen. I have to go examine them." And another said, "I've gotten married and I can't come." The king's servants seized the invited guests and abused and killed them. The king was angry. He sent out his troops and destroyed those murderers and burned their city. Then he said to his servants, "The wedding feast is ready. Go to the streets and the lanes of the city and bring in the poor and the blind and the lame, as many as you can find." The servants did as they were told. They went out into the streets and brought in all the people they could find, both good and bad. So the wedding hall was filled with guests. The people who didn't stop to think of what they were doing missed out.
There's a story that Jesus told about a man who decided to build, but you know he ran out of gold and the project was finally killed. He rushed into the thing too soon, did not think about counting the cost. So the project was left in ruin, everything that he had was lost. Why don't we wait just a little and pray? Stop and look, Jesus showed us the way. Why don't we wait just a little and pray? Stop and look, Jesus showed us the way. Are you gonna take that first drink? Are you gonna keep popping those pills? Might be better to stop and think. All that danger for just a few thrills. Are you gonna break up that fight? Are you gonna make peace with a friend? Maybe now you just feel uptight. You'll be glad that you helped in the end. Why don't you wait just a little and pray? Stop and look, Jesus showed you the way. Why don't you wait just a little and pray? Stop and look, Jesus showed you the way. There are times when it's hard to know. Take some searching to do the right thing. Asking others which way to go helps to see what the future may bring. There are choices each day we live. Let's all learn from mistakes that we make. Just remember that God forgives. He wants you to decide for His sake. Why don't we wait just a little and pray? Stop and look, Jesus showed us the way. Why don't we wait just a little and pray? Stop and look, Jesus showed us the way. He showed us the way.
Often one of the last things we want to do is take time to think, to go off into a quiet spot where we're undisturbed for a while, to think of what we're going to do and where we're going. It's easier just to turn on the TV or the radio and let others amuse our time away. We'll be back to hear how a stained glass window painter puts careful thought into the work he does. The colorful painted windows you see in some churches got there after a careful process of thought. Ernest Ashcroft has learned the skill and has practiced it for years. Here's how he goes about it.
Since I was a child, even in my very early years, long before I reached my teens, I wanted to be an artist. Almost as long as I can remember, I was interested in drawing. I have a certain philosophy of life which I suppose started when I was very young. I would call myself a Christian. I find that it's the most reasonable thing in the world to be one. If there's a creator, and I believe there is, and it's his desire to be in harmony with his creatures. And the big problem is that we're not always in harmony with him. So it's our responsibility to enter into fellowship with him. And I believe he has made it possible that I accept my position as a sinner and accept his provision to transform me, to provide new life for me. Well, in the making of a stained glass window, first of all, I have to meet with the committee or with the minister responsible. After we have decided on subject matter, then we get into the designing. I take into consideration the design of the building itself, the architecture. I go on from there to do a full-size drawing. Now, it is in black and white, the actual size of the window. From that drawing, the glass is cut. See, we look at the design, select the colors from it. When we selected the colors, we cut them from the working drawing. Following that, there is the tracing, where definite line work is traced onto the glass. Then it will be waxed up temporarily on a large sheet of plate glass. It will be held on with beeswax temporarily for the sake of painting. Then a light will be placed behind it, or else the natural light will come through. Then I apply the paint and work down to the glass again, working in all the highlights, the strengths and shadows, contours. When that seems to be satisfactorily done, then the whole thing is knocked apart again and fired. It's brought up to almost white hot, and the paint fuses into the glass, making it permanent. When everything is settled for the painting, it is then laid on the working drawing once more, just as you would lay out a jigsaw puzzle. And it is leaded up, appropriate weight of lead, thickness of lead, and soldered. After the soldering, there is the cementing, where there's a putty-like substance pressed in between the lead and the glass, making it waterproof. Following that, there is the barring, where there are 1/2 inch by 1/8 thick bars laid on the panel at appropriate intervals for strengthening. We would expect the people to not only appreciate the beauty of the window, the line work, the flow of drapery, the expression, the face, or the symbolism, but to get the message behind the thing. I don't think the church should just be a museum or an art gallery. I want to leave a message with people, something that can even have an effect on their lives, almost life-changing. Now, that subject, The Light of the World, is based largely on the famous painting by Holman Hunt. In it, he portrayed Christ knocking at the door, and that door represents the door of the human heart, suggesting that Christ knocks at the heart of every human being at some time or other during a person's life. Now, the design that I do usually shows Christ knocking with his right hand, knocking on the door. He is looking as if he is listening, intent on hearing any movement within. He is also facing away from the door so that he could leave at any minute. There's no guarantee that he will continue knocking. And again, there's a symbolism of the obstacles around the door, showing the things that can come in the way of a person or Christ entering the human heart. There are symbolic roses, the wild roses that look so nice, but yet there are the thorns. There's the foxglove, or nice to look at, very nice to look at, but very poisonous. And of course there are thistles, the lovely thistle with its stately branch and nice leaves, but very jaggy, very sharp, preventing access to the door. You see Christ standing at this door amid these thorns and poisonous plants, still knocking. Once in Belfast, I had a young boy come up to my studio to serve his apprenticeship in stained glass. And I happened to be cartooning the light of the world when he came up. And he asked what the various things meant in the drawing. And I was only too pleased to tell him. I told him about these things that prevent Christ getting into the heart, what they represented, and about the Christ knocking at the door. I also showed him that there was no knob on the outside. A person couldn't force his way in. The door would have to be open from the inside. Christ does not force his way on anybody. He asks admission. And it's up to the person within to open the door and invite him in. Well, later on, he came back up to my room a few weeks later. This time I was painting the window. Again, he asked much the same questions. I told him much the same reasons. And then months after, one Monday morning, he came in, he said, I knelt down at my fireside last night and I asked Christ into my heart. So, looking at stained glass can have a profound effect on a person's life, as it had in this young fellow's life.
A skill that's an inspiration to many people doesn't pop up overnight. It comes by a good deal of thoughtfulness. We'll be back after this break. People in leadership may need to do more thinking than followers do. They have a great responsibility, and yet their decisions are personal too.
2,000 years ago, when the Roman boot ruled the world, a feisty little country called Palestine refused to be tramped upon. To bring it into line, the Romans sent in a governor named Pontius Pilate. Now, Pilate loved to play politics, and he antagonized the Jewish religious leaders whenever he could. One day, he put up emblems of Rome in the capital city of Jerusalem. This angered everyone terribly. Another time, he caught some people in the act of their worship of God, and he killed them. Often, Pilate was the loser in his political battles with the Jewish people, but he had clout because he was backed by Rome. He came up against the biggest challenge of his life one day when they brought Jesus before him. Jesus was teaching people to love God more than anything else. Some of the people hated what he was doing, and they rigged a court case against him. The final decision was Pilate's. Would he condemn an innocent man, or would he let him go free? Pilate lived in agony during those days. He knew what he should do, but he also wanted to gain some favor in the eyes of the people. During the trial, his wife had a dream about Jesus. Let him go, she said. He's innocent. But his position was more important to Pilate than his conscience. He refused to let Jesus go free. What is truth, he said, and he washed his hands of the case in front of the people. As for Jesus, he was put to an awful death by crucifixion. And Pilate, well, he lived and died with the consequences of his decision.
High school is a time to think about the future, and giving it your best shot in class is a good way to start.
Boy, was that test and social ever a bummer. I'm so lucky I passed.
Me too. I got a C-.
That's running on the edge. I'd say you're pretty lucky.
Emma's brains here got an A, right? Well, I don't care what you got. I'm perfectly happy that I passed.
Did you study?
No, that's a waste of time.
What?
I've got better things to do, like partying.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I gotta go. Can't waste time.
Bye, Nicole.
Hi, Nicole. You look real happy.
Yeah.
What's up?
Oh, nothing.
Seriously, you don't look very happy.
Well, my friends were bragging about their low marks.
And their low marks are upsetting to you?
You don't know what it's like.
I think I get it. You enjoy studying and getting good marks, but you're embarrassed about that in front of your friends who don't.
You do understand.
You enjoy studying, don't you?
Oh, I love it. I could spend hours just reading and studying. There's so much to learn. But do I have to play dumb to get friends?
Of course not, Nicole. Well, there are plenty of kids your age who want to succeed.
Sometimes I wonder if it's all worth it.
Well, studying is a good start to other things you want to do in life.
Karen, you have a way of making learning sound real important.
Oh, it is. Well, not just for grades, but for life. Learning to make the most out of every situation. Being able to think creatively. Tackling problems head on.
But what about my friends?
Well, they don't see it like that yet. They'll have to make up for it later.
Yeah, that's something to think about.
Come on, let's go shoot some baskets.
Scattered by all of my problems, searching for answers, my heart's open wide. The choices we make, they fix our future. How can we know what's wrong or right? Talk to God, He's there to listen. Walk with Jesus, He'll show you the way. He'll show you the way. He'll show you the way.
Hi, we'd like to send you our third story survival kit. In it, you'll find a colorful poster, a book from the Bible, some cards to send to your friends, and a cartoon book. When you write to us, send your letter to The Third Story, Box 2, Station F, Winnipeg, Manitoba. That's Box 2, Station F, Winnipeg, Manitoba. And remember, the survival kit is free of charge. We hope to hear from you real soon.
Planning our lives carefully. Taking time to think about what we do. God gave us these abilities, and we should use them. Most importantly, we should use our thinking ability to think about God, about what He wants us to do, what He says is best for us. It's all in the Bible. A time spent each day reading and thinking about it is the best investment we can make.